Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining me to chat about your experience with the Mothering Oneself Mindfully program.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
So tell us a little bit about you and maybe can you launch into what drew you to the program? What made you sign up?
Yeah. So I would say I became a mom in 2020 at the onset of the pandemic. I am probably a self-classified type A, like to plan and control, and thought I was ready for motherhood and had planned and taken every class and met you at a Boston Naps boot camp and found your techniques for preparing for labor so helpful, that I think that the timing of when you were partnering with Naps initially was almost perfect for being in postpartum, and then add in the disconnected element of what felt like in a pandemic, the lack of a community. I had pockets, but it felt welcoming, but also people who were really raw and going through motherhood in various stages. So I found it very helpful. But what mindfulness is something I've always been aware of, and something that I always saw as an opportunity to, a new tool to add to the toolbox or muscle to flex. But I definitely felt the need to try and process being a new mom and all that went into that when all the planning went out the window. Yeah.
Yeah. So really it was kind of that time of like new motherhood, high expectations of yourself, trying to navigate like what those expectations were, but what reality was, I guess, in the midst of obviously like a challenging time, because you did participate during the pandemic. So how was it? Like, what were your key takeaways? What was your experience in the program?
Yeah, so I feel like a key takeaway was helping me unpack, like holding that mirror up to your face and saying, what's going on? And unpack, why did I have such high expectations? This idea of trying to be perfect or do it all. The key takeaways were, we live in this, or I felt pressure to try and capture everything, do everything, be the best, accomplish the task list. And I know I refer with you a lot, but I know that now a trigger for me is if I start saying I should do this, or I start getting really hard on myself. The fact that I'm now acknowledging that is, I'm still working on stepping back, but giving myself a break, or this felt like it gave me permission to start thinking, where do I prioritize myself? Why do I have these unrealistic expectations of things I should be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So really looking at yourself, as you said, holding up that mirror with a more discerning eye. But as we talk about in the mindfulness practice, with tuning down the self-critic and the judgment piece, right? Because so often when we're looking at ourselves, whether it's like literally looking at ourselves in the mirror or actually looking at the way that we are, right? As a mom, as a partner, as a person, we have that very self-critical lens. And so you're saying like this really helped you put up a mirror and be a little more discerning around yourself.
And I think be kinder to myself. I think often some of those simplest practices of would I say this to someone else or be this critical of someone else? God, no. So yeah, it was really helpful. It also, I think the generational baton that you talk about was really meaningful in the first portion of the program, thinking about what you want to continue and what you don't want to continue and what you've inherited or is ingrained in you. really made me reflective. And I think I'm then making conscious decisions of how I want to react, how I want to interact with others, and then, what are my values? What are my family's values? I find myself being more reflective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And asking, like, I feel like you've probably said this and you hear a lot, like, I want to do better, right? I want to do better than my parents did or my mom did.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times it's like, well, we got to see clearly what that is. So looking at that generational baton and maybe how it's playing out, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but then actually asking yourself, what is better? Like, what does that even mean? I want
Who's
to
the
do
judge?
better. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
and so writing your own script around that, right? And I love that we can do that in community, because when you do it by yourself, it's, I don't know, it's not as fun, number one, but it can also it feels really heavy sometimes too.
Absolutely. And I do think that you've created a nice space, in the sense of, I feel really privileged to get to become a mom during this, let's say, time period. Yes, we have our own pressures, but it also, I think women are being really real about the good, the bad, the challenging, or like, you don't have to just put on a brave face and smile and say it's all great. There are certain parts that are fantastic, and then that's, hey, I'm having a really hard day, and what does that mean to me?
Yeah. 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 So thank you. And so one final question for you is, say someone listening to this is just like, I don't know, is this the program for me, or is it the right time? Right. Kind of asking themselves that question. Like, we're really good at coming up with reasons sometimes not to do something or to do something. So what would you say to someone contemplating the program? Like, is it worth your time? Is it worth their time? What would you say?
Well, I do think I made a conscious decision each time, when signing up, that this was investing in me and the future me, as I want to continue to have these tools to how I want a mother, and how I want what's important to me. And then I do think you can lean in as much as you want or take a step back, that it's, yes, you have the guardrails of the meetings and you're really great with technology, so you can still be connected. The small group practice is fantastic. I have times where I can really do as much as I'd like, and then there are other times where everything else is going on. I have so many other, it's the holiday season, or work is chaotic, and I can only chip away. I think that it's worth. It feels like an investment in myself, but also a long term.
Yeah.
It's not just like I'm going in for just this one Saturday of a session and hoping and writing down all the notes and hoping for the best. The tools are still there.
I love that you said that, like investing in the future you, right? And acknowledging, that's one thing that is really important, that I don't sugarcoat the practice of mindfulness. Like, this program, this 2022 program is 9 weeks. And at the end of the 9 weeks, like, you are not going to be an enlightened being. Sorry. Sorry about that. But as you said, like, it's really like taking that step and making that investment it's the identity piece, right? Like, in the identity of, like, I am someone who is choosing to invest in myself, and I am committed to showing up in a present and mindful way, or in the way that feels good to me, or defining what better means as I parent at every stage, right? It's really like that long-term commitment to yourself and the practice, whether it's in the school mom or not, right? It's just saying, like, this is something that resonates for me, and I know is a muscle, as you said, I want to build, and I want to start flexing.
Yeah. And I think that I'm learning tools or words and phrases here that I'm finding are really helpful, as I'm talking to some of my closest friends, that, are parenting also at different ages and stages. And it's just reframing, not always trying to find a solution, trying to be present with people, but also saying, like, I hear you, this stinks. It's, or, just think we're doing it a little different
Yeah.
than it would have been if we were in the child's shoes right now.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, right? Like it's obviously it impacts how we treat our children and ourselves, but of course, like it can't not impact the way we interact with peers and colleagues, right? So
Hmm.
I love that that's happening for you as you're seeing phrases and your shift impacting how you're interacting with others in your life. That's so awesome.
Hmm.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Is there anything else that you want to share? No pressure, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
No, I feel really lucky this came along, and that it it's it's really nice to be part of a community and feel like I can reach out and have questions. Um, but it's been fantastic.
Well, I feel very lucky that you are a part of this community. You, I've told you this before, like you make me laugh, like we laugh in the dysfunction. We get together,
Yes,
the dysfunction that is life, it becomes a little more humorous in our community. Um,
exactly.
well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate you. And I know people will get out a lot out of what you shared today. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.